Hello everyone, welcome to session 2 of the day on the Smart Stage. I'm joined by Scott, the President and CEO of Invent Group. Scott, how are you?
Adam, it's great to see you. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm doing really, really well, all things considered. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. I'm really excited for your session, mate. For those that are watching, as you already know, this is the top tech that you need to embrace in order to achieve effective gamification. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adam. First off, I want to thank you and Event Tech Live for having me at the inaugural ETL US and Canada. I'm really to be here. Additionally, I want to thank everybody that has joined this session. I think this is going to be a fun, interesting session, and I know how busy you are, and there are lots of other things that you could have chosen to participate in, and so I truly appreciate you being here today. With that said, as Adam mentioned, I am going to talk about the kinds of technologies that we're using that help us to embrace and achieve effective gamification. Before I do that, I just want to give a brief introduction. I'm the president and the CEO of the Invent Group. Launched the position as a global brand story project last year in the height of the pandemic. Did so on the foundation of the live business that we launched in 2008. We did so for a number of reasons, but evolved from that business into strictly just live events to a full-fledged global brand story project. And we call ourselves a project because we're going to continue to grow. And today we have 4 different disciplines. We have, of course, the cornerstone of our business, which is the live events business or the experiential business. We have a brand strategy agency called Folk Hero. We have a culture consultancy business called Meaning. And we have a digital content studio called Heavy. Today we have 9 offices. We're in 6 different countries, and we have about 110 full-time team members across our 9 offices. Today I'm going to focus mostly on the stuff and the technology in particular that we're using in the live event space, and specifically the technology around gamification. And so I want to start by taking a global view of esports and gamification in particular and in general. So if you look at the esports industry, literally grew to 1.6 billion in revenue last year, which represents a 35% increase year over year. I mean, there's a number of reasons for that statistic happening. Pandemic certainly is one of them. People were locked up and chose to, in their spare time, rather than go to the gym or go out and you couldn't go to the gym, go on walks and stuff like that. They turned towards gaming. But there's also this massive increase in Gens and millennials who now make up over half the world's population. And this is something that is part of their daily appetite. Then you look towards Twitch by way of example. And in 1 month alone last year, there were almost 1.5 billion gaming hours logged on Twitch, which represents a 50% increase in one single month. If you look at the industry as a whole, it's expected to grow to 37 billion by 2027. So there's this massive explosive growth curve that's happening within esports and with gaming in general. And I think this is something that our industry needs to pay attention to, especially in light of the fact of what went through over the last 15 months, which is, many of the organizations and companies have been using a virtual platform for a number of years. Undoubtedly, with the pandemic and the lockdown of the live events business, the virtual event business or industry grew as well. Today, it represents $78 billion in revenue, expected to grow in the next 10 years to $774 billion. So if you look at these 2 dynamics alone, and you look at the fact that the live events are going to come back, but there will, I believe, forever be a virtual component or a hybrid model moving forward. And the reason for that is that, live events are going to come back like the Roaring Twenties. There are already studies and analysts that are calling this the next Roaring Twenties, which happened right after the last pandemic that we had. And so live events undoubtedly are coming back, but this virtual component that a lot of us have grown to love over the last 15 months does a number of things. It creates a level of sustainability to live events that's really unmatched. It replaces the need to travel. It replaces a number of other things that have an effect on global warming, and so therefore it helps to offset the carbon footprint that we as an industry have largely been offenders of over the years. So there's that bit. It helped create a level of sustainability. It creates accessibility and democratization. So, many of the events that we did last year, the larger ones, would have an audience of, say, a live audience of typically 15,000, 20,000 people. Through the virtual addition of the virtual platform, we have grown that audience to 100,000 or 115,000. So there's this massive ability when you lay on this virtual platform to create accessibility and democratization, especially when you're on 24/7, 365 days a year because of the technology. You can basically save these experiences and access them at any time. And then the last thing is that the overlay of a virtual component really does provide a demonstrable ROI. And having been in the live event space for over 35 years, it's been the holy grail that we've always tried to chase as an industry. How do I measure? How do I gauge success? And then how do I demonstrate ROI? So the virtual component does this. So that combined with this idea of gamification, I think is a powerful collision of things that's going to happen as live events come back. And we're already starting to see really solid examples of gamification happening in live events. This is an example from Walmart. It's their annual holiday event. Last year, it was the first event that they did that was not a live event. It was an event they bring their store managers and their leadership together to basically talk about their holiday shopping platforms and strategies and plans. And they did a really lovely job of a simple game. It was a trivia-based game where attendees were asked to participate and play trivia games around different products, different initiatives, different strategies and tactics that they wanted their attendees to learn. What it did was it increased engagement and retention simply by creating a little competitive fun around trivia around the products. So in addition to that, it also helped us impart knowledge in a way that they'd not been able to do before. So going back to this notion of esports, if we take a look at that for a moment, everybody knows this Travis Scott gig that happened on Fortnite last year. It was earth-breaking, ground shaking, whatever you want to call it. Had about 15 million unique users show up to the concert that he put on at Fortnite. And I think that literally sort of woke the world up to this idea that esports and gaming platforms are actually becoming a real venue for events such as this. Followed on the tails of Travis's gig, J Balvin did a beautiful thing at Fortnite where he did a giant Halloween party, afterlife party, which was very well received, and I think basically almost broke Epic Games servers. It was so popular. Coming out of that, there was another one that Cascade did, which actually was a 3-day neon rave, which was unbelievable. And so when you start to look at the dynamics of what's happening with Epic Games and Fortnite, and then in this example, Riot Games and League of Legends, where they did their world championships in League of Legends, you start to look at the dynamics of the way consumers and attendees for events starting to engage with these software programs, you really can see a trend where we as an industry, an events industry, need to lean into these platforms and begin to leverage these platforms in order to create gamification in a way that has never been done before. And in my opinion, there's a real reason that there is so much success around this. First off, I mentioned the millennials and gens. Okay, they're the largest population in the world right now, and they want one thing more than anything else, and that's a shareable experience. And so if you're unable to be at an event live, you literally have an opportunity to create a twin or a twin venue. And so therefore with these technologies, you have the interaction that you can get in a live event. You're able to build communities. You're able to connect with one another in ways that you couldn't before because of the scalability and the accessibility. And then, of course, whether you're in immersive, VR platform or you're a web-based HTML platform, there is a level of immersion that you're able to provide these virtual audiences that actually enhance the gamification elements and therefore increase retention, knowledge retention, and enable the ability to call this information up. So then let's look for a minute at what else is sort of drawing us in this direction and why we should be paying attention to this. And that is what we're calling the power and the pull of the avatar. So these avatar systems are unbelievable, and they're growing exponentially in terms of their quality and their ability and their ease of use, the user experience. And what they really do is they begin to personalize a virtual experience in a way that up until you start to use these platforms, you didn't think was possible. And I think that that's super, super important. And as you can see here, there are a variety of different looks. That's Travis Scott. That looks almost identical to Travis Scott, which is spooky. And that's raw. And then I think what's going to happen with this technology as we continue to leverage it, both on the B2B side and the B2C side, is that we're going to move into the next, which is XR, which is extended reality, which is a combination of mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, all three of those technologies coming together. And as you can see from this slide, XR is forecasted just in the US alone to be a $160 billion industry by 2023. So this is also something that's coming. And we're starting to see it real time with many of the biggest companies and organizations in the world. This is a really remarkable example that General Motors did at CES last year, where the opening keynote session presentation by Mary Barra, their chief executive officer, was actually designed and produced on Epic Games' Unreal Engine. And the keynote presentation, as you see, was able to deliver stories around design, technology, the science, and everything that goes into General Motors thinking, and in this particular case around their electrification campaign, which is their pledge to have all vehicles made electric or renewable. And so I think what you're seeing is a very, very strong example of how this
At General
mixed reality.
Motors, our vision for the future is a world with zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion.
The ultimate platform is a breakthrough in electric vehicle technology.
Super Cruise is the industry's first truly hands-free driving assistance system.
This vehicle is the clearest articulation of exactly what we mean when we say any vehicle can be an EV.
Introducing our new face of Cadillac. The Lyriq is an uncompromising SUV.
Cadillac Celestiq celebrates the extraordinary.
BrightDrop is a single destination for delivery companies helping electrify an industry.
Our mission is not just to build self-driving car technology or build a self-driving car. It's to build a form of transportation that's safer, cleaner, and more affordable and more accessible than what exists today.
We want everyone to have the opportunity to join us and join the movement. General Motors is donating $1 million to the Khan Academy, one of the world's leaders in online learning, to signal the start of a new chapter in our history. We're evolving our brand identity and launching a campaign intended to inspire a new generation of drivers.
So what you saw there was what I think a pretty powerful example of how we as an industry can leverage this these mixed reality technologies in order to bring presentations to life, virtual presentations to life in a way that couldn't be done before. That entire presentation, that keynote presentation at CES, was done in a studio, and literally most of, if not all of the products that you saw, the vehicles, the backgrounds, the factory scenes were all designed and produced in the Unreal Engine platform, in a 3D modeling platform. And so what that enables us to do is really visualize and bring to life experiences in a way that is completely unique. And I mentioned this sort of twin venue idea. We have the ability, basically, if we want to, add a virtual layer on top of the live event to literally create, along with the avatar systems, a twin experience that is a virtual experience to the live experience. And I think that, combined with the elements of the gamification that I spoke of, is a really, really exciting possibility for the future of events. Let me talk a little bit about the personalization piece, because I think this is critical. We know as an industry that the more personalized and more focused and more one-to-one you can create an experience, the more effective that experience is going to be, the more likely the attendees are, or the consumers are likely to come back again the next event or the next year, and the more effective the event is going to be, so the overall return on investment is going to be higher. And with these platforms that Riot and Epic and Unity operate, we literally are, through the avatar systems, able to create a very, very personalized experience that we know is as an effective a way of communicating, engaging, and attracting primarily the younger generations, the millennials and gens, which arguably are probably the most in demand of all of the generations when it comes to brand marketing. And then that leads me to this notion of content intelligence, which also then goes back to helping create personalization, which goes back to creating more compelling gamified ideas that then helps build on that ROI and all of those things that I've been talking about. So content intelligence is going to be an important piece to this, and it already has started to be as we leverage these technologies more and more. So things like predictive analytics, data capture, those kinds of ideas are very real and happening right now. And what that allows us to do is through the capture of content and data, we can effectively begin to predict outcomes of future experiences. So I always like to tell our teams that, you know, now we have the ability to not just have some hot shit creative come up with this amazing idea, but we have a hot shit creative come up with an amazing idea that's backed by data and that can actually therefore predict the effectiveness or the outcome of that hot shit idea. And so I think when you combine this concept with everything I've talked about before, we really have the ability to kind of nail this as an industry. And then I think there's this interesting notion, and then this is the last point I'll make, and then I'll begin to wrap. But I think there's this interesting notion of what I like to say, separate but together. And you know, one of the things that I think you could rightly argue about having a virtual piece is you're not in the same room with other people. You're not in the same room experiencing the same thing, and that's true, and you can't deny that. However, if these events are done properly, and you know, I am a firm believer that hybrid is here to stay. You know, whether the live bit will be the cherry or the live bit will be the cake, and whether the virtual bit will be the cherry and the virtual bit will be the cake, I think that's to be debated, and that's going to depend on the event and the target audience and all that sort of stuff. But for no doubt, hybrid is here to stay. So the more effective that we can lean on these technologies, we can literally begin to bridge the gap between, doing an event where people are separate from one another and bringing them together almost in a face-to-face way. And so I think done properly, we are able to do these events both separately but together. So that brings me to the end. I just want to close first by again thanking Adam Perry and Event Tech Live for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I want to give a big shout out to Grip, who is the platform provider today. I've worked with a number of platforms. You guys are killing it. Great job. And then I have this really cool thing on my phone called Internet Clicker, internetclicker.com. And it's allowed me to cue all of my slides right from my iPhone. So very, very cool. And just imparting, I've been blessed to be in this business, in this industry for over 35 years. I've had the fortune or misfortune of riding through in various roles in my career, gas shortages, Y2K, the auto crisis, the financial meltdown, and now the pandemic. And I have to say, this one knocked the wind out of a lot of us. For those of us that have been around this long, this was a tough one. But the one thing that I can say, and I'd like to leave with this, is that I am so proud and honored and humbled to be a part of such an incredible industry of talented, committed, passionate, resilient people. Some of the things that I've seen, the creativity that I've witnessed, the inspiration that has come out of the last 15 months is unmatched in my opinion. And I just want to leave by saying thank you. I'm super, super proud to be a part of this industry. And again, thanks for joining me this morning. Thank you.
Scott, a fantastic presentation there. Thank you for, telling us all a little bit about your ideas and your thoughts about where the industry is going. We've got some questions from the audience, and I've got a few of my own that I want to ask you as well. I think one of the first questions I'll ask you, you mentioned that at the moment, the virtual events business is worth 78 billion, and that over the next decade, that's looking to grow to 774 billion. A 10x over the next decade is a huge number. Can you give us an insight into where those figures have been formulated from? Is that from industry reports that you've seen? How is that figure of that big figure over the next decade been formulated?
Yeah, I believe that figure came from Forbes, I believe. I'll check that, but that is a footnoted fact on this. And the way that those formulas have been formulated, the way that they've arrived at that is they've basically measured the growth of the virtual platform business over the last 10 years, and then accelerated that growth with the growth of over the last 15 months. And then they forecasted out another 10 years basically to arrive at it is a 10x growth curve. And that's phenomenal, actually, if you live in the event space. And I think in the virtual event space. And I think that in large part, why that number is so high is because forevermore, there are going to be virtual events. Whether you go to Coachella or whether you're going to, some sort of leaders event, private leaders event for a company, there is going to be a virtual component forevermore. So if you look at the number of live events that happen around the world every year, and you figure that, somewhere between 70 and 80% of those events are also going to layer now on a virtual piece, the growth opportunities is extraordinary.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And I think those numbers are founded as well, especially, we're seeing lots of news come out, news this morning that LinkedIn has invested in Hopin. They've been a huge investor in technologies that have grown and sectors that have grown over the last decade. So I think that's a telling sign of, where organizations like Microsoft believe the world is going as well. We have a couple of attendee questions that I want to get to, and I'm going to read them out here. So one attendee has said, we have many clients that cannot yet afford the incredible experiences that you spoke about earlier. Do you know of any options that are maybe at a lower price point that still maybe give some part way the experience that you described of some things like the Fortnite experience or the GM experience?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a number of event platforms out there that are highly qualified. Grip being one of them. Entrado is another one. On24, and they all have gamified components in them. What they are missing is the sort of experiential bit that a Fortnite or a Riot Games brings. The interesting thing though is that it really is not that expensive. So to license basically, let's use Epic to license Unreal Engine is about $3,000. And then what comes along with that is basic functionality. So you don't have to have a team of people. That, for instance, that GM presentation was expensive. There was a lot of original art. There was a lot of original design in that. Clearly, the J Balvin event that was done was expensive. But there are ways to leverage those technologies from Riot and Epic and Unity in a way that is affordable and bring them into an event platform in unique ways.
Yeah, and I think we also, as an industry, have to be somewhat a little bit patient. The more that those technologies are adopted, the more buying demand there is. Generally, the way that technology goes, the price point comes down, which again further increases adoption or the ability to adopt that technology, right? You did mention also.
Sorry, Adam. I just wanted to add too. There's an incredible company that we've done some partnering with called Surreal Events, SURREAL Events. They're out of Atlanta, and they actually have a Epic Games Unreal Engine event platform that's built that's extremely affordable. So all the work has already been done, and they're licensing it, and so yeah, you check those guys out too.
Yeah, my understanding is it's the creation of the assets that's the most expensive part. So I can imagine that going forward, we'll kind of have like a Amazon warehouse of assets for kind of virtual events that we'll be able to kind of, just like we do with sets and stages and stuff, right? That's how we build events. So I can imagine that will kind of happen in the digital world. You mentioned earlier, or you gave an example of a simple trivia. What was the name of that platform? Do you remember they think it was something for Walmart, if that helps jog your memory?
Yes, it was. That was it. We used Entrado for that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah. One final question from me before we wrap up. At the moment, when I go to a physical event, it's me. I go there. And you made the really good point earlier of the ability for me to be able to personalize my experience in a digital world by creating my own avatar, having my own look, my own feel, just the way that we, walk around the real world. Do you one day see the point in which my avatar exists with me and I take my own avatar to all of these digital and virtual experiences? Do you think it'll work that way?
I do. I think there are some licensing barriers right now because the avatar systems don't readily transfer from, say, Epic Games to Riot Games. However, I do in fact see a day when that is going to happen because there is going to be a consumer demand where you've spent so much time and energy and you've won certain things. You've won these cool glasses or this blazer or whatever, and you're going to want to bring that into your virtual world as well as your real world. And so I do in fact see a day where there is a sharing of these avatar systems across different platforms, for sure.
I have to agree. I think when you look at things like blockchain technology, NFTs, the ability to maybe have that one Supreme t-shirt or that one Nike hat or those pair of digital Jordans or something like that, then like you say, you're going to want to carry that around with you and you're going to want to show that off in a digital space, just like we get dressed up to go to, the awards dinners and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Scott, I can't think...
I think brands are going to drive that too, because if you go from one platform to another and somebody then asks you, hey, where'd you get that Supreme shirt or that Supreme hat? And you're like, oh, I got it over on this platform. So all of a sudden there's going to be this cross-pollination of virtual attendees or virtual consumers moving from one platform to the next. And that's going to be good for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, thank you very much for coming in and presenting today at Event Tech Live US and Canada. I know we've already got you lined up for the UK show as well. So thank you very much for supporting the show once again. For anybody watching today that wants to reach out to Scott, please do on the platform. I'm sure he'd be happy to connect up with you. And we will see you in the next session.
Thank you.